Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 512. I had the black pieces. My opponent played d4, and I went with a symmetrical response d5. I've been hoping to play a funny line in the Marshall defense, but I still haven't gotten it yet. He played knight f3. Very popular, particularly in Blitz chess. It's, I think, just an easy system to play. Let's see, he went e3 here, and I go c5. So this move e3, this signals the Colle system, or call system, keeping the bishop inside the pawn chain, but it has a lot in common with the London system or the Torre attack, which has the bishop on g5 or f4 respectively. The Torre attack is bishop g5 and the London system is bishop f4. But with the bishop inside the pawn chain is known as the call system, and with the fianchetto on this side, that's the call Zuckertorch, but like this, it's just the call system. So let's see, he played c3 here, which is actually one of the main ideas. You see, actually c4 could be played here as well. It transposed into more of a queen's gambit declined type of position. And I go e6. And what you'll see is I've already equalized. So this is an opening where white is not trying to gain any advantage out of the opening. He's just trying to get a solid setup, and he's playing for the long term. He's going to play for a later attack. And we play normal moves for quite a while. Bishop d3, knight bd7, knight bd2, and I went bishop e7. You see, bishop e7 is not the top choice here, but it's okay from the perspective of the chess engine. It's all in that range of about even. I like the bishop better on e7 in some cases. The bishop on d6 is more active, but it also runs into the idea of the e4 to e5 pawn push, so this e4 move can come with tempo at times. And this is a fine way to play, so nothing wrong with this so far. He castled, I castled, and with queen e2 we're just out of the opening book. e4 immediately could be played, but he's preparing e4, and he's going to get that in. So I go b6. I saw this idea in a recent game I played on the London system, just putting the bishop on this diagonal. It seems like a good idea, and if he allows it, if he doesn't do something active in the center, then I can even plant a knight on e4, supported by the bishop on b7 there. So that might be interesting. He goes rook e1, I go bishop b7, and now he pushes on with e4 before I have a chance to try this idea of planting a knight there. So all good, but well, this slow system has given black a chance to get his setup down, and you'll see the game stays in the range of about even for a long time. And these exchanges are very typical. Cancel that. Let's see. Oh, I played bishop takes e4. That's right, my bishop is hanging here. So a lot of material came off here. But the main point is that at the end, black always has this move knight to f3. So that's why the knight went to d7. It was to back up the knight on f6. Knight to f6, I meant. And this move comes with a tempo, because whatever piece is left here after the exchanges usually has to move again. Even if it's just a bishop, typically white wants to save the bishop, so he would retreat the bishop back. So very typical sequence, and still all in the range of about even. We'll see, we never stray very far from zero here for a long section of this game. So I think just logical developing moves here. h3 keeps my knight from coming into the g4 square. I decide to trade here. Takes back with the knight. Yeah, it didn't. None of these moves really changed the valuation much. It seems like there's just no way to get much going, which is, from black's point of view, it's one of the difficulties of playing against these solid setups. Is it's hard to get any action. So you have to be patient. I think that's the message, and probably where I went wrong. You have to be cautious at the same time. So he goes queen to d5, activating. Oh, let's see. He went. It's my turn. I went knight to d5. Okay. The engine was saying queen to d5. Okay, well, that's an idea. I was trying to activate my knight. Still nothing horrible is happening. He goes queen e4. I went bishop f6. One of the ideas was try and put some pressure on the central piece here. He drops his knight back to f3. Queen c7. Getting out of the d file. He could put a rook on the d file, pin my knight. That could be awkward. Bishop to g5, exchanging more pieces. I kick so that the exchange happens on a different square. I didn't want to take right away and just pull his knight forward where it automatically is attacking on h7. So I think it's not in my interest to exchange here, although I believe the chess engine says it's quite playable. Bishop takes g5. Okay, it's jumping around, but everything's in the range of about even here. That's the message. No matter what I do, it's all about even. Bishop takes, knight takes. I can't say no matter what, because eventually I do blunder here, but as long as I don't blunder, things stay about even. Knight f6, and I never seem to get anything going. Knight f6 hitting his queen. The queen just drops back to e2. Get my rook out. So, I've got all of my pieces are playing. One idea maybe is to push these queenside pawns and not that far. Push these queenside pawns up and try and create weaknesses on his pawns. The only slight imbalance in this position is he has a majority on the queen side and I have a majority on the king side. Other than that, there's not much going on. He just drops his knight back to f3. Let's see, I went queen c5. Cancel that. Queen c5. He went knight d4 again. I was kind of expecting that, and I wanted to try and get some pressure on that square. It's a good outpost for his knight, so logical. And then I started pushing these queenside pawns forward with maybe some ideas of creating weaknesses here, but it's difficult with his knight and his queen coordinating on the b4 square. It's hard for me to get these pawns rolling either. Let's see, he goes rook a to d1, getting his last rook into the game. I push on with a4. I could go all the way to a3 and maybe undermine the b pawn here. So he stops that with a3. And that also takes a lot of the sting out of this b5 to b4 idea, because he can just snap that pawn off. So he's really put a stop to my queenside play here. I dropped my queen back to c7. He played queen to e5. I play rook to d5, chasing his queen away. He plays queen to e2. And then right here, my next move is a mistake. The interesting thing is there's already a tactic in this position, which I didn't see, but my opponent spotted. So good job for him. He was playing, maybe somewhat cautiously here, but just kind of biding his time and waiting for me to make a mistake. And the mistake is already on the board. I mean, there's already a threat on the board, and I need to deal with the threat, and I didn't even recognize that there was a threat here. But right in this position, if it was white's turn to move, actually, if you want to take a little tactical quiz, why don't you pause the video here and see if you can spot the tactic that white has in this position. Seems like an unusual looking tactic here. I'm gonna give the answer away, so it might not be so easy to spot. Knight takes d6 is a threat. And so you have to think about that move a little bit. What's happening when the knight takes d6? It does two things. It attacks the queen, and it removes the defense of this rook here. So, well, that's a bit strange. The knight is also defending the rook in this position. Okay, so that's the tactic. Knight takes d6. With the double threat on the rook and the queen. So it's not working in this position. I was wrong, because my knight is defending the rook. But it looks like my rook is securely defended by both the knight and the pawn. But when I move the knight away, that's when this tactic comes into effect. And my opponent spotted it. So this was he was really alert. He spotted this the very first opportunity. I might have I didn't even notice this tactic was on the board, so I might have let that tactic sit there for a while, but he spotted it at the first opportunity. And so it all had to do with this knight e5 move, knight e8 move. I was trying to maneuver this knight around. Again, I was looking at a maneuver like this. Let's erase white's arrows there and look at my idea. My idea was to bring the knight around like this. And I can do that. I just need to prepare it. And the way to prepare it is to take this rook and drop it back down to d8 so that it's well defended, and I don't have to worry about this funny tactic with the attack on e6. And it's still just a completely even game, but I can play on and try and get something going anyway. But I didn't. I played knight e8, and he snapped this off. And he just played a good game here. What can I do? So I played queen b7, so I have to defend the rook, and I have to move the queen away from the knight, and I couldn't do both of those and still take his knight. So he's just won a pawn there. Now from here he didn't necessarily play the best way. Let's see. Well, he went knight d4. Okay, that's logical. Just grab the pawn and get to safety. I went knight to d6, continuing with my plan of just advancing. And he brought his queen down to e7. Yeah, this isn't necessarily the best way to play because it goes into an endgame where I have potentially drawing chances. So he'd probably be better keeping the queens on and playing on just an extra pawn up. Queen to f3. It's an interesting idea, setting up a potential pin along this diagonal. That's the chess engine's top choice. Or queen g4, another active square for the queen, looking at my king side. Okay, but he decided to simplify a pawn up and go for the endgame. And he's probably right. There's probably a win here somewhere. But I have to warn you that just because the engine says it's +1 does not mean that's necessarily a win when you get to the end game, because you can draw some of these +1 and even some +2 positions because the engine just doesn't understand there are different ways to just kind of hold a position. So let's see. I went knight to c4 here, completing my idea and attacking his pawn, but he can just defend it. Played king f8, activating my king. The rook goes to a7, and right here I make the second mistake. So I didn't realize somehow that I could defend this pawn. I thought I would play, if I played b5 here, he would just take it. But the rook is defending from this side. So I think I was already disconcerted by the tactic that he played earlier that I missed. And I did think about this move, rook a5. I didn't like that because I thought he would take and exchange. But the engine says, and bring the pawn over here. The engine says that's the top choice. So let's look at rook a5 for a second. See if I could have held this draw. I thought he would take. Rook takes, a takes, and then b4. I guess the problem is this pawn is backwards, and I'm going to put my rook here and win a pawn. So okay, so that's the way to draw this with rook a5, or to try for a draw. He probably would have exchanged. I have a feeling. That's what he would have done. But let's see if he played the best move here, though. Let's give him credit. Rook to d7. And then rook a to c5. Just kind of shuffling the rook back and forth, but at least I saved my pawn. And I play on a pawn down. It's possible, I think, to hold that position. Okay, but anyway, I played rook e5, not recognizing those possibilities. And now he's just 2 pawns up. And he never really lets go of his advantage from this point forward, so I'm just going to step through the rest of the moves. I kind of simplified to a rook endgame, but it's a losing rook endgame. He snarfed up another pawn there, and then I went for counterplay on the 7th rank. But my counterplay is too slow, and he does a nice job here of combining attacks on my pawns and mate threats, and so I can't really do anything about it. I was finally grabbing a pawn here, but this actually loses even more material because the check forces my rook back. He trades and grabs that rook. So I resigned here, but a nice game, well played by Murph98, even if I found it a bit frustrating to play against. So I think one lesson, if you want to think about the lesson of playing against the London system, is that while white is not gaining an advantage out of the opening, black has difficulty getting counterplay, and I think you really just have to be patient and not try to press too hard. And you have to be satisfied with a draw. If white is playing really solid, and he's a player that's on the same level as you, there's sometimes just no way you can win, and you just have to settle for the draw rather than pushing too hard and turning it into a loss. So that's the moral for this game. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.